Sam had lived in the quiet neighborhood for almost 3 years. The houses were small but neat, the streets lined with green trees, and children played outside in the evenings. Sam liked this place because it felt peaceful, and he thought it was the right place to build a calm life with his wife Maya. But there was one problem that disturbed the peace for everyone. Her name was Karen. She was the head of the homeowners association, and she made sure everybody knew it. Karen had rules for everything. If someone's grass grew a little taller than she liked, she left a warning note. If a trash bin was not placed exactly at the corner of the driveway, she snapped a picture and sent a fine. Sam tried his best to avoid conflict. He always trimmed the lawn, kept the paint on the fence fresh, and parked the car in the right spot. Still, Karen always found something to complain about. One Saturday morning, Sam found a white envelope stuck to his front door. It had the HOA logo on top. His heart sank because he knew what it meant. He opened it and read the paper. It was a fine of $950 for improper holiday decorations. Sam was confused. He had only placed a small flag and a few string lights on the porch. It was neat, nothing loud or messy. When Maya came home from her night shift, he showed her the paper. Maya worked in law enforcement, but most neighbors didn't know much about her job. She was calm, intelligent, and always collected. She looked at the paper and raised her eyebrows. Improper decorations, $950? She asked slowly. Yes, Sam sighed. She says our lights are against HOA rules. Maya walked outside, looked at the porch, then shook her head. This is ridiculous. These lights are not blocking anything. They're not even bright, Sam nodded. But you know Karen. She makes rules up when she wants. Maya took the fine and studied it closely. She noticed that it was signed by Karen herself and not by the HOA board. That was strange because usually a fine was supposed to go through several board members before being sent. Sam was frustrated but also tired of fighting. Maybe we should just pay it and avoid more trouble, he said quietly. Maya turned to him with a firm look. No, this is unfair, and if she thinks she can scare us with this, she has picked the wrong person. She went into the living room, plugged in the paper shredder, and without hesitation fed the fine into it. The machine buzzed loudly, slicing the paper into thin strips. Sam watched with wide eyes. Maya, won't this make it worse? He asked nervously. Maya smiled calmly. Sometimes people need to be reminded that power has limits. Sam wanted to believe her, but he also knew Karen well. Karen was not the type to let things go. She wanted control, and she loved making examples out of people. Later that afternoon, as expected, Karen showed up at their front door. She was holding her phone, recording herself like she often did when she wanted to show the bad neighbors to the board. I saw what you did, Karen shouted. You destroyed an official HOA fine. That's destruction of property. I'm calling the cops right now. Sam opened his mouth to explain, but Karen had already dialed the number and was loudly describing the situation as if she had caught a dangerous criminal. Maya stood quietly by the door, her arms crossed, watching Karen with steady eyes. She didn't look scared or guilty. She only looked patient, like someone waiting for a puzzle to finish. Minutes later, a police car arrived. 2 officers stepped out and walked toward the house. Karen rushed to them, waving her hands dramatically. Officers, thank you for coming, Karen said loudly. This woman destroyed official HOA property. She is refusing to pay a fine. You must arrest her. The officers looked at each other, then turned their eyes toward Maya. She stood tall and calm, her police ID badge hanging around her neck now. The officers froze when they saw the words printed on it. It read, Internal Affairs Division. Sam felt his heart race. Karen, on the other hand, stopped mid-sentence, her face pale. The officers straightened their posture, and one of them spoke carefully. Ma'am, the officer said to Maya, we didn't realize. Maya nodded slightly, her voice calm but firm. It's all right. I'll explain everything. But first, let's make sure we're following the law, not personal grudges. And just like that, the story had shifted. Karen, who always controlled the neighborhood, suddenly found herself standing against someone far above her rules. The 2 police officers looked at Maya with new respect. They had walked into the scene thinking it was a simple neighborhood complaint, but now they realized they were standing in front of someone from internal affairs. Karen did not understand at first. She still had her phone in her hand, recording, but her voice was shaky. What does that mean? She still destroyed an HOA fine. That is not allowed. You need to do your job and write her up, Karen said, her words less confident now. Maya stayed calm. She didn't raise her voice or move quickly. She just held her ID steady in front of the officers so they could see it clearly. This is my job, she said firmly, and I know what is legal and what is not. HOA fines are not police property. They are civil matters. Destroying a piece of paper signed by a single person does not make it a crime. Sam stood by, amazed at how steady Maya was. He had always admired her patience, but in this moment he saw a different side of her. She was not just his wife. She was an officer trained to handle people who abused power. One of the officers turned toward Karen. Ma'am, she is correct. This is not a criminal issue. It's a civil dispute between you and the homeowner. We can't treat it as a crime. Karen's face turned red. But I'm the HOA president. These rules matter. If she ignores them, others will too. You have to make an example. Maya stepped forward, her tone even but sharp enough to cut through Karen's words. Making an example out of neighbors with unfair fines is not leadership. It's harassment. And calling the police for personal revenge wastes their time. The officers nodded slightly as if agreeing with Maya's words. They had likely dealt with similar cases before, but rarely did they see someone handle it so clearly. Sam thought the drama might end there, but Karen was not ready to give up. She pulled out another folder from her bag and waved it around. This is not the first time they broke rules. I have records. Pictures of their grass, their fence, their lights. They think they can live here without following what everyone else follows. Maya raised her eyebrows. Let me see. Karen hesitated, but then shoved the folder into Maya's hands as if daring her to find fault. Maya flipped through the pages. Most of the evidence was small things. A leaf on the driveway, a trash bin placed a few inches to the left. A flag hung a day longer than scheduled. Each page looked more petty than the last. Sam felt embarrassed, not for himself, but for Karen. She had spent so much energy collecting these silly complaints. Maya closed the folder and handed it back. Her voice stayed calm, but her words carried weight. Do you know what this looks like? Obsession. Instead of helping the community, you are targeting people. This is abuse of your position. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She was used to shouting down neighbors, not being challenged with authority. The officers shifted uncomfortably. One of them finally spoke. Ma'am, you should be careful. If members of your HOA feel harassed, they can take this to court. And if they do, your record of constant complaints will not help you. Karen's hand shook as she lowered her phone. For the first time, she looked uncertain. She had expected the police to support her as they usually did when she called, but this time it was different. She had called them against someone who actually knew the law better than she did. Sam felt a quiet satisfaction rise in his chest, but he kept silent. He knew Maya had more to say. Maya turned to the officers. Thank you for coming. I will handle this from here. Please write a report that notes the misuse of emergency services for a non-criminal issue. The officers nodded and stepped aside. They had no doubt now about who was really in control of the situation. Karen's eyes widened. What do you mean, misuse? I called for help. Maya's eyes narrowed just slightly, her calm still intact. You called because you wanted power, not because there was danger. That is not help. That is wasting public service. If you continue this, it will be escalated. Karen's lips trembled, but she didn't answer. She turned on her heel and stormed back toward her house. As she walked away, Sam whispered to Maya, I think you just scared her more than anyone has before. Maya gave him a small smile. Not scared, just reminded. People like her think rules are weapons, but rules are supposed to protect, not punish. Sam felt proud, but he also wondered what Karen would do next. She never let things go easily, and if she felt her control slipping, she might try something bigger. Maya seemed to sense his thought. She looked at him with steady eyes and said, This is not over yet. Be ready? The neighborhood felt quieter after the police left, but Sam knew it was only the calm before another storm. Karen was not the kind of person to back down, especially after being embarrassed in front of the officers. For the next few days, things seemed almost normal. Sam went to work. Maya rested from her long shifts, and the porch lights glowed softly at night. But every time Sam stepped outside, he noticed Karen's curtains move. She was watching. She was planning. One evening, when Sam was taking out the trash, his neighbor Tom walked over. Tom was a kind man, always fixing his own car and offering tools to anyone who needed them. He looked uneasy. "Sam, I should tell you something," Tom said quietly. "Karen came to my door yesterday. She asked me to sign a complaint against you. She's trying to gather the whole block." Sam frowned. "A complaint for what?" Tom shrugged. "She said you were disrespecting HOA authority. She wants to call a special meeting to vote on penalties. Honestly, most of us are tired of her, but some people are scared to say no. They don't want her targeting them next." Sam sighed. He had expected something like this. "Thanks for telling me, Tom. I appreciate it." When Sam told Maya later that night, she was not surprised. She sat at the dining table with a notebook in front of her, already writing things down. "She is trying to escalate," Maya said calmly. "When people lose power, they look for bigger ways to get it back. She thinks numbers will scare us." Sam rubbed his forehead. "So what do we do? If she convinces enough neighbors, she can make life really difficult." Maya tapped her pen against the notebook. "Then we prepare. We let her make her move. But when she does, we'll be ready with the truth." The next week, flyers appeared on everyone's doors. They were printed in bold letters: "Emergency HOA meeting. Mandatory attendance." At the bottom, it said the purpose was to address repeated violations and threats from the household of Sam and Maya. Sam felt his stomach twist when he read it. The flyer made them sound like criminals, but Maya only folded the paper neatly and set it on the counter. "This is her stage," she said softly. "We'll just bring the spotlight." On the evening of the meeting, the community hall was packed. Neighbors filled the chairs, some whispering nervously, others rolling their eyes. Karen stood at the front with her folder of papers, smiling like she had already won. Sam and Maya sat together near the middle. Sam felt tense, but Maya was steady, her posture calm and her eyes sharp. Karen began her speech loudly. "Thank you all for coming. As HOA president, it is my duty to protect the beauty and order of our neighborhood. But sadly, one household has chosen to disrespect the rules again and again. They think they are above the law. They even destroyed official documents." A few neighbors gasped. Others just looked tired of the drama. Karen flipped open her folder and started showing pictures on a projector: a trash bin slightly crooked, a leaf pile, a flag on the porch. "This," she said, "is the evidence. And the worst of all, shredding a $950 fine in front of witnesses." Sam clenched his fists, but Maya placed her hand gently on his arm. She stood up slowly and walked toward the front. The room grew quiet. "May I speak?" Maya asked calmly. Karen's smile flickered. "This is my presentation." One of the neighbors, Mrs. Green, spoke up. "Let her talk. We all deserve to hear both sides." Maya faced the crowd. She spoke clearly, her voice strong but not loud. "My name is Maya. I work in law enforcement. The fine that was given to us was not valid. It was signed only by one person, not the HOA board. That is against your own rules." She held up the shredded pieces in a clear bag, taped together like evidence. "This was not destruction of property. It was rejection of an abuse of power. I have no problem following fair rules. But rules made for control, not for community, are not rules. They are harassment." The room was silent. Neighbors looked at each other, some nodding slightly. Karen's face turned red again. "She's twisting things. She's trying to scare you with her badge. Don't you see?" Maya turned her gaze directly on Karen. "I don't need to scare anyone. The truth speaks for itself. And if you want me to, I can request a formal audit of every fine you have issued in this neighborhood." Gasps filled the room. Everyone knew what that meant. If an audit happened, all of Karen's petty fines and complaints would come under review. Karen's confident smile was gone. She shuffled her papers nervously, but her hands trembled. Sam watched the neighbors whisper among themselves. Some were already looking at Karen with doubt, others with open frustration. For years, she had ruled with fear. Now that fear was slipping away. Maya stepped back, her expression calm. "This is not about us, it is about fairness. We all deserve better than this." For the first time, Karen had no reply. She stood frozen at the front, her voice gone. The community hall buzzed with whispers. Karen's control over the room was slipping fast and she could feel it. Her face was flushed. Her hands clutched the folder of papers as if it were a shield. For years, she had spoken with full authority and nobody had dared to question her. But now Maya's calm words had shifted everything. Mrs. Green, one of the older neighbors who had lived there the longest, stood up. "I want to say something," she said firmly. All eyes turned to her. "I've been fined 3 times in the last year. Once because my flowers grew past the edge of the walkway, once because my mailbox wasn't painted fast enough, and once because my son parked his car 1 foot outside the line. Every time I paid because I was afraid. But looking at this, I think I wasn't wrong. I think I was bullied." The room filled with quiet nods and murmurs of agreement. Karen shook her head, raising her voice. "No, those fines were fair. If I didn't enforce them, this neighborhood would fall apart. Look at other places. Lawns overgrown, junk cars in driveways, messy decorations. Do you want that here?" But the neighbors weren't convinced. Tom, the man who had warned Sam earlier, stood up too. "Karen, there's a difference between keeping order and making everyone miserable. We all want a nice neighborhood, but not if it means living in fear every time we step outside." Maya watched quietly, letting the neighbors speak. She knew this wasn't just about her or Sam anymore. This was about all of them finding their voice. Karen tried to regain her footing. She pointed a finger at Maya. "She is manipulating you all. She has a badge. She knows how to scare people. That's what she's doing right now." Maya didn't raise her voice. She simply held up the clear evidence bag again, showing the shredded fine taped back together. "I don't need to scare anyone. I'm showing you facts. This fine was not signed by the board. It was written and approved only by Karen. That breaks your own bylaws. If anyone else here has received fines, check if they were signed properly. If not, those fines are not valid." A murmur ran through the room. Several neighbors pulled out envelopes they had saved. Some shuffled through papers looking for signatures. The atmosphere changed from doubt to anger. Mrs. Green spoke again, her voice louder this time. "If that's true, then Karen owes us answers. We pay HOA fees. We pay these fines. Where's the money going?" Karen's eyes widened. She clutched her folder closer as if hiding something inside. "The money goes to community needs, of course. Landscaping, maintenance, pool cleaning. You all know this." But the doubt was growing stronger. Tom shook his head. "Then show us the records. Show us where every dollar went." Karen froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She was not used to being challenged so directly. Maya stepped closer, her voice still steady. "Transparency is the foundation of leadership. If you have nothing to hide, you won't mind showing the records." Sam watched with pride. Maya wasn't yelling. She wasn't threatening. She was simply shining a light on the truth, and the truth was doing the work for her. Finally, another neighbor, a younger woman named Nina, raised her voice. "I motion for a vote. Karen should step down as HOA president until we can review all records. If she refuses, we can take this to court as a group." The room erupted with voices of agreement. People who had stayed silent for years were now speaking up, fueled by Maya's courage. Karen's face drained of color. She looked around the room, realizing that the authority she had clung to for so long was slipping out of her hands. She tried one last desperate attempt. "You're making a mistake. Without me, this neighborhood will collapse. You don't know how to manage it." But Mrs. Green, steady and calm, replied, "Maybe not, but we know how to be fair, and that's more than you've given us." The vote was quick. Hands went up across the room. The majority wanted Karen suspended until records were reviewed. Only a handful of people kept their hands down, either too loyal or too afraid. When the vote was counted, Karen's power cracked like glass under weight. She slammed her folder shut and stormed out of the hall, her heels echoing on the floor. Sam exhaled, finally feeling the tension ease. Neighbors gathered around Maya, thanking her for speaking up. She only smiled gently and said, "You did this. You found your voice. That's how change happens. But deep inside, Sam knew this was not over. Karen was not the type to give up. She would not accept defeat so easily, and if she felt cornered, she might become even more dangerous. Maya seemed to know it too. As they walked home together, she glanced back toward Karen's house and whispered, "She will try again. Be ready." The night after the meeting, the neighborhood was quieter than usual. Most people stayed inside, talking softly about what had happened. For the first time in years, Karen was not the one giving orders. Her name was whispered behind closed doors, followed by words like "finally" and "about time." But inside her house, Karen sat by the window, her face lit by the glow of her laptop. Her hands trembled as she typed furiously. Losing control of the HOA had humiliated her. She replayed the moment in her head again and again, Maya standing calm while the neighbors turned against her. It burned inside her like fire. Karen was not going to accept defeat. She told herself that Maya had manipulated everyone, used her police badge to scare them. "She thinks she's smarter than me," Karen muttered under her breath. "We'll see about that." She began searching online for information about HOA rules and local laws. Then she opened the HOA email account, the one she still had access to. She started writing a long message to the city code office, complaining about Maya and Sam's house. She listed fake violations, illegal lighting, improper renovations, and noise complaints. Her plan was simple. If she couldn't find them herself, she would make someone else do it. The next morning, Sam woke to the sound of a truck outside. He walked to the window and saw 2 city inspectors checking their front yard. One of them was taking pictures, the other writing notes. Sam went outside quickly. "Can I help you?" he asked politely. The man with the clipboard looked up. "We received a report about property violations. We're just checking." Maya stepped out behind Sam, her expression calm but serious. "Can I ask who filed the report?" she said. The inspector glanced at his paper. "It says it was submitted by the HOA office." Maya crossed her arms. "Interesting, because the HOA president was suspended last night." The inspector blinked, realizing something wasn't right. "Oh, well, we'll just finish checking and leave. Sorry for the trouble, they didn't find anything wrong. Everything was clean, organized, and legal." When they left, Sam turned to Maya with concern. "She's still trying, isn't she?" Maya nodded. "Yes, and this is only the start. When someone like Karen loses power, they look for new ways to get it back. She's angry now. That makes her unpredictable." Later that day, Maya sat at her desk and began writing notes. She listed every incident: the fine, the police call, the false reports, and the misuse of HOA authority. She was building a case. Sam watched her quietly, proud but worried. "You think she'll stop if she knows you're building a file?" he asked. Maya shook her head. "No, but when she crosses the line again, we'll be ready with proof." Across the street, Karen watched from behind her curtain. She saw Maya writing, and it made her even more furious. "She's trying to ruin me," she whispered. "I'll make her regret it." That night, Karen printed fake letters that looked official with the HOA logo on top. She planned to slide them under doors around the neighborhood, claiming that Maya and Sam were under investigation for disrespecting community leadership. She worked quietly, moving from house to house after dark, placing the letters one by one, but she didn't realize that one of the neighbors, Nina, was awake and saw her through the window. Nina grabbed her phone and took a few pictures. She didn't want to get involved before, but after seeing Karen sneaking around like that, she decided enough was enough. The next morning, the neighborhood chat group was full of messages. People were angry. They had found the fake letters and compared them. Each one had the same strange tone, the same dramatic accusations, and all were unsigned. Tom posted the photos that Nina had taken. They clearly showed Karen walking between houses in the middle of the night. By noon, almost everyone knew what had happened. People gathered outside Karen's house, talking in low but firm voices. Sam and Maya stayed on their porch, watching quietly. Karen finally came outside, pretending to be innocent. "What's all this noise about?" she asked. Mrs. Green stepped forward. "You went too far this time, Karen. We all saw the letters." "You lied again?" Karen tried to deny it, but the pictures were too clear. The neighbors were done with her excuses. Maya finally spoke, her voice calm but strong. "Karen, this is harassment. You're crossing legal lines now. If you continue this, I will report it formally." Karen's voice cracked. "You're the reason this is happening." "You ruined everything." Maya didn't answer. She simply looked at her with quiet authority, and that silence was stronger than any argument. As Karen went back inside, slamming her door, Sam turned to Maya. "She's breaking, isn't she?" Maya nodded slowly. "Yes, and when people like her break, they make mistakes. We just have to wait for the one that ends this completely." That night, the neighborhood felt united for the first time. People talked to each other instead of whispering. And for the first time in years, no one feared the knock on their door from the HOA. But deep inside, Maya knew it wasn't finished. Karen was quiet, and quiet could be dangerous. The next few days passed with an uneasy calm. Karen had gone quiet after being caught spreading fake letters, but Maya knew silence from her meant planning, not peace. Sam hoped it was finally over, yet Maya stayed alert. She had seen people like Karen before, proud, stubborn, and unwilling to let go. One morning, Sam went out to check the mail and found something strange. His mailbox was open and all the envelopes were missing. He looked around and saw other mailboxes were the same. Mrs. Green was already outside, frowning. "My mail's gone too," she said. "Do you think it's kids playing around?" Sam wasn't sure, but his gut told him otherwise. He called Maya outside. She looked around the street carefully. The mailboxes were all open, but there were no signs of forced entry. "This isn't kids," she said. Someone wanted information. Maybe bills, addresses, anything to use. Later that day, a police car drove slowly through the street. Sam and Maya stepped out as one of the officers waved. "Good morning," he said. "We received several reports of mail theft in this area. We're investigating." Maya introduced herself and showed her badge briefly. The officer nodded respectfully. "Glad you're here, ma'am. We'll keep watch tonight." When the officer left, Maya looked thoughtful. Karen is desperate. She might be trying to find something to use against us. Maybe she's looking for personal documents. That evening, Maya set up a small security camera on the porch, facing the street. "If she's the one doing this, we'll have proof," she said. Sam helped her connect it to her laptop so they could monitor it from inside. The night was quiet at first. Around midnight, Sam had dozed off on the couch when Maya touched his shoulder. "Look," she whispered. On the screen, a figure was moving slowly from house to house. The person wore a hooded jacket and carried a small flashlight. The camera view wasn't perfect, but the shape and walk were familiar. Sam's eyes widened. "That's her," he whispered. Maya nodded, her voice calm but cold. She just made her final mistake. They didn't go outside right away. Maya called the police station directly and gave the live footage. Within minutes, a patrol car rolled into the neighborhood quietly, headlights off. Sam and Maya watched through the window as the car stopped a few houses down. The figure froze, then tried to run, but it was too late. The officers were fast. The next morning, everyone knew what had happened. The police had caught Karen red-handed with a small bag full of stolen mail. The entire neighborhood gathered outside as the officers took notes. Karen looked pale and tired. Her voice cracked as she spoke to the officer. "I wasn't stealing. I was just checking for evidence against that woman." "She's been after me." Maya stepped forward, her tone calm and professional. "Karen, you violated federal law by tampering with mail. That's not just a fine or a rule. That's a serious crime." Karen's hands shook. "You set me up," she said weakly. Maya shook her head. "No one set you up. You walked into this by yourself." The officer nodded and turned to Karen. "Ma'am, we'll need you to come with us for questioning." Sam stood quietly, watching. He didn't feel happy or proud. He only felt relief. It was finally ending. As Karen was led away, some neighbors whispered softly. Mrs. Green crossed her arms. "It's sad it came to this," she said. "But maybe now we can live in peace." Maya sighed. "I hope so." Later that afternoon, the new acting HOA board held a short meeting to restore order. They decided to cancel all unfair fines from the past year and review every financial record. People finally smiled again. Children played outside without fear of breaking invisible rules. Sam and Maya sat on their porch as the sun set. "You handled it perfectly," Sam said. "If you hadn't been calm, it could have gotten worse." Maya smiled faintly. "Sometimes the best weapon is patience." She gave herself away because she couldn't control her anger. Sam nodded, thinking about everything that had happened. "Do you think she'll go to jail?" Maya looked out at the street, her eyes calm. "That's up to the court. But even if she doesn't, her power's gone. And once people see the truth, they don't go back to fear. The wind blew gently through the trees, and for the first time in months, the neighborhood truly felt peaceful. But as Maya stood up to go inside, she looked back at Karen's empty house. The windows were dark and the curtains were closed. Still, she couldn't help but wonder if this was really the end or if Karen had one last trick left. Sam noticed her pause. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing," she said quietly. "Just a feeling." The street lights flickered on. The week after Karen's arrest brought a strange calm to the neighborhood. The streets were quiet, neighbors smiled more freely, and children played without the shadow of fear. Sam and Maya enjoyed their porch again, sipping tea in the evenings while watching the sunset. It felt like life was finally returning to normal. But normal was never guaranteed when someone like Karen had been involved. Maya remained vigilant. She checked the neighborhood chat, watched security cameras, and quietly reminded neighbors to report anything unusual. Even a small hint of Karen's presence in the area could disrupt the fragile peace. One afternoon, Sam noticed a new sign posted near the community entrance. It was small, printed neatly, but the words were chilling. "Rules must be followed. Watch carefully," Sam frowned. "She's still sending messages. Even from jail, she's trying to scare people." Maya took a deep breath. Karen thinks fear is power. But fear fades when the truth is stronger. "We'll handle this calmly, just like before." That evening, there was a knock at their front door. Sam opened it to see two officers standing there. "Good evening," one said. "We're here to inform you that Karen has filed a complaint from jail." Sam's eyes widened. "A complaint from jail? About us?" The officer nodded. "Yes, she claims harassment, misuse of authority, and false reporting." The prison officials forwarded it to the city's legal department. Maya tilted her head slightly, reading the officer's expression carefully. "Do you have a copy of the complaint?" The officer handed her the papers. Maya skimmed them quickly. Karen had tried to twist the story, claiming that Maya and Sam were threatening her and the HOA. But the claims were weak, contradictory, and easily disproven. Every false statement she made had evidence to refute it. Maya looked at Sam calmly. "She's desperate. She wants one last attempt to regain control. But the complaint won't hold. She doesn't have proof, and she already crossed the law multiple times." Sam nodded. "So we just let it go?" Maya shook her head slightly. "We respond carefully. The key is to stay factual, calm, and transparent. One mistake from her and the truth will be obvious." Over the next few days, Maya worked with city officials, lawyers, and the HOA acting board to prepare a response. Every document, every report, and even the shredded fine was carefully presented. By the time Karen's complaint reached the court, it was clear that her claims had no foundation. Meanwhile, the neighborhood slowly returned to its normal rhythm. People spoke more openly, worked on their gardens together, and even held a small community picnic. Children ran around laughing, and neighbors exchanged stories, enjoying a freedom they hadn't felt in years. One evening, after the picnic, Sam noticed Maya staring at Karen's empty house across the street. "Still worried?" he asked. Maya shook her head, smiling faintly. "Not worried. Just aware. People like Karen don't disappear quietly, but right now we have the upper hand. The truth is on our side, and the community believes in fairness now." Sam nodded. "It feels strange. All this tension gone at once." Maya glanced at the neighbors returning to their homes. "It's not just us. It's them too. When everyone sees honesty and fairness, fear loses its power. That's the lesson." The next day, a letter arrived in their mailbox stamped with the city legal office. It confirmed that Karen's complaint had been dismissed and that any further attempts to harass the neighborhood or its residents would face legal consequences. Sam read the letter aloud, feeling a mixture of relief and disbelief. "So, it's really over?" Maya nodded. "Legally, yes. But the lesson is stronger than the law. People need to see that abusing power has consequences. Karen learned that the hard way, and now the neighborhood has learned it too." That evening, they walked together through the quiet streets. Houses glowed warmly in the setting sun, and laughter echoed softly from yards where families were enjoying the evening. Sam felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in months. Maya stopped near the entrance of the community. She looked around, her eyes calm and steady. Power is not about rules or fear. It's about respect, fairness, and honesty. That's what keeps a community strong. Karen forgot that, and she lost her grip. Sam smiled, squeezing her hand. You were amazing through all of this. Calm, smart, and fair. You didn't just protect us. You protected the whole neighborhood. Maya smiled faintly, looking toward the darkening sky. Sometimes standing for what's right is enough. People will follow that, not fear. That's the real victory. As they returned home, the streetlights flickered on, illuminating the neighborhood. Everything looked peaceful, safe, and alive. For the first time in years, it truly felt like their neighborhood had a future free from fear. But somewhere in the back of Maya's mind, she knew to stay cautious. People who misuse power often find new ways to challenge it. Still, for now, the quiet was a victory worth savoring. Weeks passed, and the neighborhood began to feel alive again. The streets were filled with laughter. Children's bicycles rolled down the sidewalks, and neighbors chatted without fear. It was as if a heavy shadow had lifted, and the warmth of community returned. Sam and Maya enjoyed their mornings with coffee on the porch, watching neighbors greet each other and tend to their gardens. The tension that had lingered for months seemed gone, replaced by a sense of calm and fairness. Maya still kept a careful watch. She checked the security cameras regularly, stayed in contact with the HOA board, and quietly ensured that nothing unusual occurred. But she no longer carried the worry she once had. Karen's arrest and the dismissal of her complaint had shifted the balance. One afternoon, the acting HOA board called a special meeting. The purpose was to restructure the association, improve transparency, and make rules fair for everyone. Sam and Maya attended, along with a majority of neighbors. The meeting began with the board welcoming input from residents. Neighbors shared stories of small fines, petty rules, and moments when they felt unfairly targeted. Everyone spoke honestly, knowing that for the first time their voices mattered. Maya listened quietly, occasionally nodding. When asked for her perspective, she stood up. "Rules are important," she said calmly, "but they must serve the community, not control it. Transparency and fairness will make this neighborhood stronger than fear ever could." The room was silent for a moment. Then applause filled the hall. People began talking with smiles, sharing ideas for improvements, and even laughing about the absurd rules that had once ruled their lives. Sam felt pride swell in his chest. Maya had done more than defend their home. She had helped the entire community find its voice. After the meeting, neighbors stayed outside in small groups, chatting and planning small projects together. Gardens would be shared, tools exchanged, and children's activities organized. It was a neighborhood reborn. As the sun began to set, Sam and Maya walked through the quiet streets, noticing the subtle changes. The community had shifted from fear to friendship. Houses looked brighter, lawns were well kept, and laughter echoed from backyards. Maya paused near the entrance to the neighborhood, looking at the empty house where Karen had lived. The curtains were drawn and the yard had become overgrown, untended. The woman who had caused so much fear was gone, and the signs of her control were fading. Sam looked at her and asked, "Do you think she'll come back?" Maya shook her head slowly. "People like Karen often try again, but the difference now is that the community knows the truth. Fear cannot be rebuilt where honesty and fairness exist." They continued walking, passing neighbors who waved and smiled. Some carried trays of cookies or tools to share. Children ran ahead, calling to each other and laughing freely. At home, Sam and Maya sat on the porch watching the sky turn gold and pink with the setting sun. The quiet was comforting, but it carried a lesson: that vigilance and courage were necessary for peace, and that standing up for what was right could change lives. Sam finally spoke, breaking the silence. "It's amazing. The neighborhood actually feels alive again. All because of you." Maya smiled faintly, taking his hand. "It wasn't just me. It was all of us. Everyone who spoke up. Everyone who refused to live in fear. That's what made the difference." They sat together as the first stars appeared, enjoying the calm that had once seemed impossible. The shadow of fear that Karen had cast was gone, replaced by trust and a sense of belonging. The next morning, children ran past their porch waving to them. Neighbors exchanged greetings, and the sounds of life filled the air. For the first time in years, the community felt like a true neighborhood, not ruled by fear, but united by fairness, respect, and shared responsibility. Maya looked at Sam, her eyes calm and bright. "This is what peace looks like," she said. "And when people stand for fairness, it lasts longer than fear ever could." Sam nodded, holding her hand tightly. He knew she was right. Karen's reign had ended, but the lessons she left behind would help the neighborhood stay strong. It was a victory not just for them, but for everyone. As the sun rose higher, the neighborhood woke fully, alive and free. The streets, once filled with tension, now held laughter, conversation, and the promise of a better future. And in that moment, Sam and Maya realized that standing up for what is right doesn't just protect you, it changes the world around you for the better. The community was finally whole, and peace had returned for good.